Let's talk about the movie The Invitation starring Nathalie Emmanuel, and I just got back from the theater, so I'm going to be explaining the ending and little details I noticed. If you haven't already, check out my review right here. If you haven't already, check out my review somewhere up here. I really did like this movie, and I thought it was much better without the trailer, and I go into more details there, but let's talk about the ending. I assume you've seen the movie if you're watching this video because there will be spoilers, and I'm not going to talk about everything that happens up to the ending, so we're just going to focus on the ending and some cool scenes that I really loved. Something I said in my review video is that I did not watch the trailer for this movie, and it was a much better movie without the trailer. Not knowing that there were vampires in this movie honestly made the movie for me. So if you went into this movie not knowing what was going to happen in the film, like I do with most of my movies, I noticed little details such as the maid always being very timid around Evie, and later on in the movie we find out that she was actually friends with Evie's grandmother. Now, since I just got out of the movie and there's not many other videos or explanations out right now, I couldn't find a definite answer, so maybe you guys could help me. But was Evie really related to the girl who was the other wife of the vampire? That's something that confused me a little bit about the movie, is that I thought that Evie's grandmother was the one who got married to the vampire and then was the one who committed suicide earlier on in the movie, but then at the end it made it a little bit more confusing. So let me know what you thought or your interpretation of that was. I just want to be correct on that, so if my fans correct me or anyone else corrects me on anything, I want them to be 100% right so we can all talk about the correct information. Now, like I talked about in my review a little bit, watching this movie without knowing that there are vampires is a lot more fun. I noticed small details like the one of the vampires who was one of the bridesmaids getting really jealous, and I was like, this looks a little weird, they're definitely into something. Also, another scene that I liked was when the two bridesmaids went up to Evie and she asked the bridesmaid, do you know the people getting married? And she's basically like pausing for a second, and I was like, yep, something's up, they're evil. Even though it was in the trailer, I did really like the dinner scene. I thought that the blur of the camera and the different angles and all that, because I like film, were really good to the scene and made you feel more like you were Evie and feeling her emotions at the same time. And I must say, Nathalie Emmanuel went off in this role. Her action scenes were fantastic. So regarding the ending, Evie must drink the blood of Walt in order to become a vampire. When the two bridesmaids, who are also vampires, put her into the casket, the maid comes and saves her. She says that she was a friend of her grandmother, or the one that married Walt. Evie then escapes the property and she manages to find an old couple who bring her in and give her some tea, but obviously we find out that they're evil and they are vampires as well. She then wakes up on the couch next to Walt, and Walt is basically just sucking on the maid's leg, which is a little weird, but they have a conversation and then she falls back to sleep, and next thing you know, she's at the wedding. While at the wedding, Walt has made sure that Evie's favorite maid, Dia, who she accidentally knocked into earlier in the film, is there so that she can suck her blood. Right after saying yes to marriage, she knocks over a bunch of stuff, starting a fire, lighting the priest on fire, and all hell breaks loose. She stabs Walt in the chest, but he doesn't die, and she has a face-to-face with Victoria, who's honestly a really mean vampire and just has attitude for her throughout the entire film. Victoria was actually 500 years old, while the other vampire, Lucy, was only 100 years old, and she was a lot more playful and a much nicer person. Lucy starts fighting Victoria, going on Evie's side, and they both get stabbed in the heart with a statue, and they both die. One of my favorite scenes is when Nathalie Emmanuel's character goes off and just knocks Walt into the fire, killing him, and basically probably killing everyone else in that house. I assume the fire burnt down the entire house, but some of the mortals, like her cousin, got out alive. In the final scene, Evie and her friend Grace are back in England, and it looks like they're gonna kill Oliver. I wasn't 100% sure if Evie still had her powers, but her friend said, oh, I have a bat, so it's a bat in the vampire, so I assume that she kept her powers, and she's now a vampire. So let me know what you thought of the movie The Invitation, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.